All right, welcome to the College Game Day Pod. I'm Dan Wetzel, joined by Pete Thamel, Ryan McGee here today. A quick reminder, please download the podcast wherever you prefer to get your podcasts, or better yet, subscribe. You'll never miss one of these glorious episodes, including Ryan McGee wearing a Cuyahoga Community College. If you're not watching on YouTube, if you remember a few weeks ago, we talked about the greatest upset in collegiate sports history.
Yep.
The Cuyahoga Community College landscaping team winning the national title in the National Collegiate Landscaping. Cuyahoga Community, that is in downtown Cleveland.
Go Tops. Go Tops. There you go.
CCC is their initials, so they are called the Tri-Cs, the Triceratops, and they now have the biggest fan of their landscaping. Are you donating NIL? I heard you picked up a kid that's been mowing lawns out in Parma like for years, and you got him signed. Is that true, Ryan McGee?
Yes. The irony being that it's well documented, I hate leaf blowers more than any person on planet Earth. And so my goal is to donate NIL with the caveat that none of that money can go to anyone that handles a leaf blower. Like lawnmowers, trimmers, whatever, fertilizer, whatever you want to send it toward. As long as my money does not go to a leaf blower, I'm all in. Tops.
Three C's, Cody Campbell.
That's it.
You are.
That's it. I'm going to be the Cody Campbell of the Tops. That's it.
They beat BYU. They beat Michigan State, which grew all the grass for the World Cup. They beat every major college, D1s. A community college in Cleveland beat all of these ag schools at landscape. And I think using a leaf blower is like probably against the rules in competitive landscape. You got to.
I'm going to be the Buddy Garrity of the landscaping community. That's it.
So sorry to derail. This is an ACC preview, but why is someone wearing that's why I got to explain. Ryan, you're someone I have to explain often.
Yeah.
Your actions require explanation. All right. So it is ACC day here at the pod, the Atlantic, but we also have teams in the Pacific Coast Conference. The always circuit court conference, because they're always suing each other, their former players, the league office. Nobody wants to be there, kinda, maybe, but no one wants to say it. It's like they got a situationship. It's really not a conference. It's a situationship now. Atlantic Coast situationship. It's also a league that played once or twice for the national title in the 12-team playoff era. And I say once or twice because I don't know whether Notre Dame is in or out. Do we count them or not? Either way, that's once or twice more than the SEC. It's got contenders this year again. It's got a really interesting chase for the league title. We'll get to all the different teams, who's coming in second. Great quarterbacks. We got a soap opera starring a 74-year-old dashing leading man. Got a potential redemption story out at Mike Vick's old school. We got consternation at former superpowers, Clemson and FSU. We got a slate of Friday night games they dubbed ACC After Dark in a nod to the great Pac-12. They've got a simulcast of the video replay room, which I thought was great, if only because you want to put a face to the guy who's going to take 4 minutes of your life to decide whether Wake Forest is sitting at 2nd and 7 or 2nd and 6 in the second quarter. Pete, where is this league? We're going to get to the contenders, we're going to get to the teams, the coaches, players, but as an entity, what is this thing right now?
Dan, it is a league that through much consternation, self-inflicted wounds, and court rulings, many, many court rulings, is both fragile and set to fracture, yet really strong, right? Like there's Miami playing for the Natty, like, a possession away, really a block punt away. They you could argue they could have won. They should have won that game if the punt's not blocked in the national championship game. So they are a nose hair, a whisker away, and credit Miami for taking the baton of the ACC. Again, this could be a longer podcast miniseries, but the very simple distillation of Miami running the run of the ACC right now is Miami ran into the NIL inferno got a few scraps, but ran in and ran out the other side ahead of it. And Clemson, which was clearly the head of the ACC, 15-19 in that run, has like tiptoed around it a little bit and is getting there. So SMU, for example, which made the playoff, has obviously gone whole. Like they ran in, they threw their program to the ACC, got hundreds of millions on the table, and then have bought great rosters, which is what you're supposed to do in this area. You're supposed to go out and you're supposed to buy great rosters and leverage your resources. So, look, I think what the ACC needs, Dan, this year is they need to quickly figure out who could ride with Miami and get two teams into the college football playoff. I think that's really like for the holistic health of the league, they need two participants in the in the college football playoff. And it's not like Miami is fait accompli to get there. I want to see what their defensive line looks like. Their defensive line had unusual specimens on it last year. Two defensive ends, first round pick type guys who just dominated games. Like they beat Ohio State because of Ruben Bain. So we will see if, they obviously went out and, plucked high-end talent from the SEC at defensive end. They've gone out and done a very good job at Miami in replacing, but, will they get there to the same high-end level is not a certainty.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I'm going with it, which is, I live in North Carolina. I was born in North Carolina. I'll be buried in North Carolina. And I grew up on Tobacco Road. And there is a desperation, no matter who it is, guys, to Pete's point about, it's always kind of been a one-team league, right? It was Florida State forever, and then it was Clemson for a long time. And now it appears like it could be Miami for a while, and one team isn't enough. And the perception of who you are is based on who do you have in the postseason. That's just how it is now. I always remember going to ACC kickoff, and it was at Pinehurst back in the day. Great gig, by the way. You get to play golf with the coaches, and everything was over in a day, back in the day. But I remember clear as a bell, John Swofford, a man who I've always admired, commissioner of the ACC, and the first question was from the great Carlton Tudor of the Raleigh News and Observer, and he's like, "Well, Commissioner, what are you going to do when the Big East comes down here and rips your league apart and the ACC ceases to exist?" And Swofford, always being a cool guy as he was, said, Carlton, everybody, the perception of this conference is all tied up in the fact that we don't play for national championships. We've struggled in bowl games, and we've struggled in rivalry games. And he said, if we take care of our business in the rivalry games, Thanksgiving weekend, we win some bowl games, and we have a team play for a national championship, all this will change. That year, Florida State played the national title game, and within the next 2 years, the Big East had been raided by the ACC and had gone away. And so the perception of who you are is 100% based on what Pete's talking about. And so who's going to step up? Because the stress around here, where I live, is that this conference might go away. And no one wants that. I mean, you mentioned the great Pac-12, Dan. We can all admit, no matter how you feel about teams here and there, it's sad that the Pac-12 doesn't exist anymore the way that we knew it. No one wants the ACC to go away. Certainly not during basketball season. And so that's the stress around this part of the world, which is who is going to join, Miami and have 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 teams in the conversation as we head into November, as opposed to just one. And in the most ACC thing ever, that we're talking about Miami, and they didn't even make the ACC championship last year, right? Yeah. I mean, they lost to Louisville. And so if more than one team takes care of business, everybody feels like at least the perception of the conference might be able to save the conference. And that's the conversation where I live.
Yeah, it's so important because perception, the perception it's never really there with this league. And I think Pete's point of it's like they went in order one at a time. And, you don't have the middle of the pack. We're going to talk about how, try to pick who's finishing behind Miami in these standings this year. And you could have 6, 7 teams. There's so many good quarterbacks. The stadiums aren't as big as the SEC. The brands aren't as big. There's a lot of basketball talk. Historically, it's this or that. And they don't have that momentum, and they don't have the revenue. And so the idea that the ACC could get gutted or Tobacco Road could get gutted so somebody chases a little bit extra dollars is a painfully scary thing, and I certainly get it. So big year. Every one of these years is big, because if you remember the Pac-12, they couldn't get a TV deal, and then the year that they all agreed that was the last year, they were great, and Washington played for the title. Yeah. And they had all the quarterbacks, and they had like this epic season. It's like if that had happened 3 years earlier when they were negotiating a TV deal, Pac-12 might still exist, because none of them really wanted to leave. They just sort of
Can we bring it back? Can we just wave our arms and bring it back?
For real.
What I hate is there's a scheduling way or a revenue share way, but even without revenue sharing, you could create a scheduling agreement to solve a lot of these. But the ACC's done its share of rating too, and it destroyed the Big East, which Big East football was a lot of fun. And the teams that were in the Big East, very few of them have done much anything since they left that, because they can't really compete in these other leagues. So everyone's got their spot, and jumping to that bigger stage isn't always better. So it's going to be a wild year. But I agree, more than one team in that playoff winning games would be huge.
Can I throw a bouquet at the ACC quick, Dan?
Please do.
Think this, for relevancy and visibility, their ratings are up and their revenue is up. The ACC network, especially because of the West Coast editions and obviously SMU editions, have been a significant financial boom. But the smartest thing that league did was it decided to own Friday, or try to own Friday. Mm-hmm. There's Big Ten games too, but they have gone all in on Friday, and these are great games on Friday. All right, you got Miami at Stanford. So to open Friday night, 9:00. We're all at last call, wherever college campus we're on watching games. We're watching that game. If that game is at noon on a Saturday, it just gets lost in the sea, right? Or wherever, 3:30, whatever it is. Go down here. Week 4, Clemson at Cal. Another great game that we'll all watch late night. Pitt at Virginia Tech. Really good football game that we get lost. Florida State at Louisville. Virginia Tech at SMU. Florida State at Pitt. Florida at Florida State. I guess that falls on a Friday this year because it's Thanksgiving
Black Friday.
Weekend. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So those are just a few of them. Even like Rutgers at BC, it's going to be the red bandana game on the 9/11 25th anniversary on Friday night. That will be a scene, right? Like that will be emotionally charged. That caliber of game, and you're just going to get exponentially more eyeballs. So credit for them to say, hey, we need to be a little bit creative and go in on Friday, and the ratings are bear that.
And it reminds you of when Thursday night college football was a big deal before the NFL came in and stole it, right? But the ACC, I mean, that's where Virginia Tech football was built. Certainly in the Big East days, but on Thursday nights, man, that was, you got a lot of big ACC games and got eyeballs in front of it. And I'm conflicted about Friday night college football. I am, sure, because I'm a big believer in high school football, and we all need it. But you're exactly right, because guess what I'm doing, right? When I'm on, I got to be in, Marty McGee, we got to be in bed, man. We got to get up early on Saturday morning. So guess what? I'm in the bed and I'm watching these games, and you're exactly right. It's owning it. And it does remind you a little bit of Pac-12 After Dark. And it's it's getting, and to your point about the bouquet, I give Jim Phillips credit, man. I that's a guy that when he first walked into these rooms with these commissioners, I wasn't sure how he's going to navigate it. It's his personality is to kind of, have a plan when you go into the room, but that doesn't really work. It's the old Mike Tyson rule, right? You have a plan till you get punched in the face, and you walk into that room, and it's at the height of his powers of Greg Sankey and these guys, it's a lot. And I give Phillips a lot of credit, because I think that he has calmed it down a little bit. I think that's him personally, but then I also think it's with the ACC. Like, to hear him talk, everything's great. We're gonna be fine. We have a plan, and I give him a lot of credit, because that's someone that none of us knew that well when he got that job, or at least I didn't. And now I've gotten to know him, and I give him credit, because he's at least managed to. We're talking about being in court all the time. He's at least managed to calm all that down a little bit, and that's not the conversation all the time, whereas it certainly was a year ago.
Yeah, don't believe the lawyers. This is the league's in much healthier, much more exciting, much more interesting shape than some of the litigation would suggest. And yeah, Friday night is high school football season. But if you take a look, a lot of those games involve schools that either don't have massive fan bases, that it's not the same as like Georgia playing on a Friday night and, 2 million people staying home to watch the game or whatever. Clemson at Cal, I don't think it's like, it's really going to affect attendance too much. I don't know, maybe. But we'll see. Anyway, they're trying things. They're doing everything they can. More schools are in on the NIL. Miami is obviously the leader. They always have been the leader, though. My friend Nevin Shapiro said I invented NIL as the Nevin image and likeness back in the day.
Your friend.
You send that on CoreLink, Stan?
That's my listen, if you've visited someone in multiple federal penitentiaries, I think you're friends. I think that's the definition of a friend.
You bring him a cake? You bring him a cake with the...
No, I didn't. I wasn't pulling that Goodfellas thing. No. I'm out here, you're in there. We're friends, but you stay in there. Like, I'm not joining you.
Smoking a cigar, talking about, talking about the Roman Empire. Oh, yeah. No, I know that. I know this scene.
You've been, you stay outside. You want to leave. Like, you want to leave. If you've ever visited jail or prison, I'm sorry you have, because it ain't fun. But boy, you want to leave. Yeah. That's your number one goal. You get in there and you're like, oh, those wires are real. Okay. And I'm innocent. I'm not even. Anyway, let's not talk about that. That's not fun. I brought that up, didn't I? Let's start with the main contender here. Miami Hurricanes played for the national title a year ago. As Pete noted, had a real chance, had the ball, could have scored a touchdown and win the game. Mario Cristobal's program has thrived of late. They lost a lot, including on that defensive line, gained a lot, including in classic ACC fashion, snagging Duke's star quarterback, Darian Mensah, in a 11th hour transfer portal move that got lawyers involved, of course. But can the Canes break through and win the national title? Can they return to this level of prominence with an epic run from the 10 seed to the national title game? Ryan?
You know what's crazy to me, and I would have lost this bar bet, is that Miami's last conference championship was 2003. And I just don't think about that, and have never won the ACC, which is nuts, because when they joined the conference, all due respect to Virginia Tech or whomever, the conversation was about Miami, and they've never won the ACC, not even last year. And so yes, that's a long way to say 100% they're going to be in the national championship conversation. But there's also that part of me that wonders, when do they trip over themselves? And this is not a new Miami thing. You go back to the epic Miami teams, of the 90s and the early 2000s, and they always lost one in the middle of the year. What made you think whatever? I was just I wrote last week about the supervillains in college football, and I had forgotten, but that infamous Miami team that created the celebration penalty, in the Cotton Bowl against Texas. They lost to BYU to start the year. But it's always been a Miami thing. There's always a loss or two in there somewhere, and that certainly was the case a year ago. But yes, I mean, the short answer is, what your question was, who's going to play quarterback? And I'll never forget, Pete, I think I'm talking to you at media day for the national championship game, and all of a sudden, like, Pete vanishes, like everybody starts vanishing, and I realize, oh, there's something going on. And it turns out the Duke quarterback, I think, was down in Coral Gables, and so we noticed a couple of guys were missing from media day that were Miami staffers, and it turns out, because the answer to the question, who replaces Carson Beck, was already sitting down in Coral Gables while we were all 30 minutes in the wrong direction sitting in a convention center. But I say all that to say 100% they'll be in the conversation all year. But my question is, where in there, because it is still Miami and it is still the ACC, where in there do they lose one that makes us go, now, what the hell was that? We thought they were going to play for a national championship.
Well, let me give you some sprinklings of the why Miami case. It starts with Darian Mensah, obviously. I mean, Darian Mensah's life has been a Disney movie. 0-star guy, goes to Tulane. He's a backup. I remember breaking the story when he won the Tulane job as a redshirt freshman. I was like, who? Like I knew his name as a guy on the depth chart, but he was like a long shot to ever be the starter at Tulane. He's one of these guys who came to Tulane with Willie Fritz. Summerall kept him, and simply put, he's just kind of thrived everywhere he's gone. It's not the biggest guy, doesn't have the biggest arm, but boy, has he been productive, and he has 2 league championships, right? Back-to-back seasons, 2 different leagues, one letter apart. So you start there. There's some really intriguing pieces here, though, Dan. I mentioned earlier Damon Wilson coming from Missouri, the defensive end. He's really, really productive guy, like high-end SEC talent, 9.5 TFLs, 9 sacks. He's sort of your classic pass rush specialist. And it says all you need to know about Miami that they went out and got one of the SEC's top defensive ends, kid who's from Atlanta, and went out and snagged him. And then the real treat here, the real like hardcore, why has Miami gotten where they are, is left tackle Jackson Cantwell. Another guy, he's from the state of Missouri. He's a redshirt freshman. I'm sorry, he's a true freshman left tackle, slotted to start right away, just like Maui Noah did when he came down there. And Mario Cristobal has invested in the lines. The recipe at Miami has been not a secret. It's very linear. Mass, right? Mass, like in strength. And that is where they have won. That is where they have begun to push around the ACC, although not won it yet. And Cantwell is another guy who's going to be a 3 and done and a top 20 type pick. And he's just like the latest in the line there. And they have invested, and it has paid off. And obviously, he's been paving the way for Mark Fletcher, who's a top 5 back in college.
I'm looking at the calendar, and they go to Stanford on the first week. That doesn't feel like a trap, but who knows? But you go to Clemson, October the 3rd. You go to Notre Dame, November the 7th. I mean, there's only a handful of games on this calendar where you look at it and you say, all right, that feels dangerous. And to me, that's Clemson and Notre Dame, and they're both on the road. And I mean, and who knows what going to Chapel Hill is going to be like, which is the week before the Notre Dame game. But you're going to Notre Dame and you're going to Death Valley 2.0. That feels like a trip, and we'll see.
Yeah, they get some of their trickier games at home. Florida State's always going to be an event. Pitt, Duke, Virginia Tech, all at home. Some of those kind of games you'd maybe get a little worried, all at home. So they got a huge advantage. I want to give one more bit to it is Mario Cristobal as a coach. He has taken plenty of arrows, including from us, certainly me, wisecracking talentless podcasters who like to bring up his various failures at big games. But hey, at Ole Miss, Ohio State, at Texas A&M, yeah. Ohio State, Ole Miss, yep. Heck of a run in the national title game. Last year, they lose by 3 at Louisville. They lose in overtime at SMU. Louisville's at home. At SMU, it was an overtime game. He coached a great season last year. He coached a great team. As Pete says, even back his days at Oregon, he is recruited through the line. He's an O-lineman. He's done an incredible job with this program. And in terms of in-game coaching, that's a gauntlet. One of the things we're seeing in these playoffs now, you have to run gauntlets to win the national title that we never saw before, because you only had to play one or two games. And so Mario Cristobal, whether he was always a great coach or he's gotten to become a great coach or whatever it is, he's certainly taken that a little bit off the table. All right, we're going to be back right after this break to talk Notre Dame and some more contenders in the ACC. Welcome back to the College Game Day podcast. We are talking ACC, and we're talking contenders, and we're talking leave no doubt. That is the battle cry of the Fighting Irish of Notre Dame after last year's disappointing selection Sunday, which was one way to describe it. Lost 2 games early in the season, Miami and Texas A&M, and that was it. They could not stay in the playoff despite a 10-2 record, and what I think everybody looks and says, probably better than a lot of teams that were actually in the playoff. One of the main culprits, ACC's now replaced tiebreaker system, which somehow left Miami out, but a 5-loss Duke team in to upset Virginia and mess it all up. And that was one of the reasons. But Notre Dame's got to win its games. They're back. The leave no doubt is what Marcus Freeman has been preaching. The players, of course, are repeating it. And with quarterback CJ Carr, with wide receiver Jordan Faison, with cornerback Leonard Moore, they got plenty of reasons to think they can leave no doubt. Ryan, your thoughts on the Fighting Irish? Can they get in the playoff, and can they win a national championship? I think everybody's got them in the top 5.
Yeah, I mean, I think they certainly make the playoff, and the question is, can you replicate what you did running the football a year ago? Because I think we all went into it with questions about, can they do that? And they did. And, how many other quarterbacks have the amount of experience that they're bringing? I don't know what they've got behind him. If he gets hurt, that's kind of worst case scenario, but there's no reason to think that they can't be in it. I think that, listen, the history of Notre Dame football is that they don't really care what anyone else thinks. But I think that skipping the bowl game last year, coming off as whining, which they did. The question is, I feel like they care a little bit more about that this year than maybe before, because deep down they do want everyone to like them. To me, that's always kind of been the crossroads of Notre Dame football. We don't really care what you think of us.
Yeah, they really care.
But they really do care a lot.
Really
yeah.
care.
And so I think that there's, I mean, if you want to say there's, image repair that has to take place, it has to take place. And how do you do that? You do it by winning football games. But yeah, no, they're absolutely in the conversation. And it's, I have that Miami game circled, which is November the 7th. And, that's going to make a statement about it. It could be an early playoff elimination game, depending on what's happened with both those teams when they get into it. When we hit November now, I always say everybody wanted an expanded playoff, and I've always argued that the playoff expanded way into November several years ago. And I feel that, I think that November 7th weekend, I look at that and I think, Pete, I think that's kind of where the playoff probably begins.
Yes. And the case for Notre Dame thriving in those big moments. And they got some cool, they've got at BYU, right? I'm not going to say that's a layup. But I think the case really with Notre Dame guys begins and ends with CJ Carr. I was at the Manning Academy a couple of weeks ago in Thibodaux, Louisiana. If you ever want to visit a 120-degree furnace for a long weekend in June, recommend going to Thibodaux. I'm sure you've been there, Ryan. Yeah, but it was cool. You see all these quarterbacks there, and again, it's shorts. There's no pads. There's no pass rush. But the sort of quiet consensus coming out of there was that CJ Carr is going to be projected as the top quarterback in college football coming in. Now, does he have the receivers is another question. But we look back and we say, hey, why hasn't Notre Dame won a national title since 1988? Let's look at the quarterbacks they've had drafted. Riley Leonard, 6th round. Ian Book, 4th round. Deshaun Kaiser, 2nd round. So Kaiser was 2017. They had nobody drafted. Jimmy Clausen, 2nd round.
Wait.
Brady
does it
Quinn,
count? Does it count if the Jets or Browns draft you?
Yeah.
Does that even?
That's fair. I'm no disparaging to
the beloved
disparaging
Jimmy
to
Clausen.
Them. Yes. But the last thumper draft pick they've had was Brady Quinn, who was the 22nd pick in 2007. Didn't work out great for Brady or for the Browns, as Dan said. But you look at Jarius Jackson and Rick Mirer, if we want to go back, he was the real last top 5 guy. So CJ Carr is positioned now, and he's a redshirt sophomore. So whether it's this year or next year, and I have a feeling the forces of things will make it this year if they have the type of season we think we have, to be a generational Notre Dame quarterback. And that has been a vexing piece. And if they can answer the questions at receiver, which have been persistent throughout Marcus Freeman's gilded time there. I mean, there's very few things to criticize Marcus Freeman for. They have been trying to get that receiver position going. They bring in Quincy Porter and Mylan Graham, 2 backups at Ohio State. They have Jordan Faison, who's been very good and very productive for them. They have Jaden Greathouse. It's probably the best collection of talent they've had at that position. We know the Lions going to be there. Ryan mentioned them running the ball. But if Notre Dame is going to break through, it's going to start with CJ Carr, and they are best positioned to do that in the last generation.
So, Dan, they're going to win the ACC is what we're saying.
Well, they're not going to do that, but we're
That would mean there have to be a pandemic. We don't want one of those.
No, yeah, please no. I am violently rooting against Notre Dame winning. If we don't root here, I'm rooting for that. You're not in the ACC. Kind of in. I don't know. ACC should claim all the shine it can get. I would just like to point out, because I'm going to take this moment to claim victory because of generally my predictive tweets go poorly. September 27, 2025, 2:01 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I say I am not an NFL draft pick, but based on his accuracy, touch, athleticism, reading, and defense, it would not surprise me if Notre Dame's CJ Carr was the first pick in the 2027 NFL draft. I wrote that. And guess how that went over?
Oh, like a fart in church.
Oh, yeah.
Or a basilica.
He was torching Arkansas. So maybe I got over my skis, or maybe I didn't. Maybe I am a genius. I don't have Mel Kiper's hair, but look at this.
Can we do a special pod about all your inaccurate tweets, Dan? The predictions
those were
completely
lost
sideways
in internet AI. Those aren't real. Those aren't real.
Yeah, just so we're clear, I'm the guy that at one point, I'm pretty sure there was a billboard in Fayetteville with, I have one of those movie poster quotes about Chad Morris was the greatest hire of the offseason. So I'm not saying nothing about nothing.
You got to take your victories even before you win. That's right. You got to.
Yeah.
The ACC fans will tell you that's what the SEC does, right? They claim their dominance before they even win. I've got that. Here's the thing. It's really interesting to me about Notre Dame football, just long term. And Pete, you mentioned all those quarterbacks, and we go back to '88, the national title, and really '93 when they should have won the national title. They lost to BC, and now it's kind of the end of the Lou Holtz. There was 3 more years, but they weren't anything to write home about. Then you had the Bob Davie era, went nowhere. The Tyrone Willingham era went nowhere. The Charlie Weiss era went right to the stand-up comedy acts.
It was awesome for about a week.
It was good for a week, and you got that.
One night, it was awesome. Yeah.
Well, they lost to USC, and then he got the New York Post. The New York Post wrote that the Giants were going to hire him, and he got I think he's still swimming in money on that. Charlie's a smart guy. Wasn't a great college football coach, but very smart guy. And then and at that point, people were like, Notre Dame will never be good. Notre Dame can never get the athletes. Notre Dame needs to join a conference. Notre Dame's a relic. It's just a bunch of old movies. There's nothing there. And credit to Brian Kelly, he got them to really good. And there's a lot of crap on Brian Kelly now. Everyone picks on Brian Kelly, but they got really good. And yeah, they'd make the BCS championship game and get annihilated, but at least they were in the damn thing, right? And they got it. Freeman, though, has taken it that next step in just a few years. And I was moved by this stat I heard the other day from a Notre Dame fan. In 12 years, Brian Kelly signed 7 5-star high school recruits, and Marcus Freeman has 8 in the last 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
And 2 more verbals right now. And it's not just 5-star, but like they're getting that elite talent that they weren't getting. And I think CJ Carr was not a 5-star recruit, as I recall, but he was a very good recruit. And he had family ties to the University of Michigan and grew up in that backyard, went to Notre Dame. So it was a great bit. But Marcus Freeman has elevated that elite talent that you need when you're in that final push. And that's why I give them a chance. Schedule is going to be the schedule. This team if this team isn't in the playoffs, something has gone horribly wrong. But when they're in there, they've got a real chance because they've got the horses that can compete with anybody.
Well, Marcus. No one's cooler than Marcus Freeman. We can all agree on that, right? And he's made Notre Dame cool. That's what Lou Holtz did. Lou Holtz, in a completely different way, he made Notre Dame cool. That's how you get Tony Rice, right? That's how you get Jerome Bettis. That's how you get the cool guys, and Tim Brown, but it's, you make it cool. And I have this conversation all the time about programs. I always talk about this kind of this sad group from the 90s who all got lost in the woods. And this includes my alma mater, Tennessee, right? And Nebraska and Michigan. They all got lost for a while. And we don't understand why people don't want to come here. Peyton Manning played here. Yeah, but a 16-year-old, you know who he knows Peyton Manning from? From starring in insurance commercials, right? Jason Witten, that's great. Jason Witten has not played in a long time. It's just, and Notre Dame still wanted to recruit on the Four Horsemen and on Newt Rockne and Frank Leahy and all this. And it's just, that doesn't mean anything to anyone. You have to be cool. And that's one, I will give Brian Kelly credit that he did tap into something that his predecessors were not able to. And now Marcus Freeman is just taking that over the top. So right now, Notre Dame is a cool destination if you're a 17-year-old five-star or if you're looking for somewhere to transfer. And that's not something that a lot of those schools with that pedigree have been able to embrace. So, yeah, absolutely give them all the credit in the world.
Brian Kelly and the word cool were used in the same sentence, not as together, but, that's a step.
Yeah,
I don't think
same paragraph, right.
I once pitched a crime-fighting show when Notre Dame had handsome Sam Hartman with that beard, that had that cool beard. Marcus Freeman, Sam Hartman, like South Bend Vice, like they drive around in a cool car. Like they all of a sudden it was like, man, this place is sweet. Look at these guys, right? I want to be Marcus Freeman when I grow up. Pete, final thoughts on the Irish?
Well, I was just going to say to the build up, right? I was covering in November 21st, 2009. I covered the Notre Dame loss to UConn in the final regular season game. That was 1 year after a final regular season loss to Syracuse. And Greg Robinson, God rest his soul, who was not an accomplished college football coach. And like the low was low. Yeah. So credit Marcus Freeman for pushing Notre Dame consistently into that top five. But Brian Kelly built the program back, like nutrition, facilities, like modernization, getting them to take there was all those things that Notre Dame was just wildly behind on. And he and Jack Swarbrick really pushed that whole thing forward to the point now where Notre Dame, I feel like, Dan, is uniquely positioned to crush this NIL era. Like nobody has access to more money. Nobody has more brand power. If Notre Dame is uniquely positioned, and they should be able to keep Marcus Freeman for a while. I do think he'll be an NFL coach someday, right? Like he's a young guy. So someday I do think he will be tempted by that. And the NFL is certainly interested in Marcus Freeman. That should be very clear. But whoever the coach is and however they push forward, because of the finances, because of the facilities that have been built and they continue to build, Notre Dame, and then they're cool again. Like Notre Dame is really uniquely positioned to have a great generation run here. And I'd be stunned if in the next decade they don't win a national title. Like you have to be good, knock on the door, get a little lucky, et cetera. And I just feel like there's too much talent going through there right now and too much money available for them not to do that.
Yeah, I'd give it 5 years. Anyway, when we come back, who's coming in second in this league? Stay tuned for more College Game Day podcast. Welcome back to the College Game Day podcast. I think everyone's going to pick Miami number one because if you're not, you're just being provocative. Miami's going to win this league. It would be on paper, which is all we have at this point. Notre Dame can win the national title, but they're not in it for the ACC race. But the interesting thing about this league is how many teams can sit there and say, yeah, we're going to come in second. We're going to be in the ACC championship game against Miami. And that list of contenders is at least maybe a half dozen deep. So let's run through them. If you were going to make your prediction right now, who faces Miami? We're going to concede Miami for the sake of this argument. Who comes in second in this very deep ACC? Pete Thamel.
It's a tricky one, Dan, because the conviction on Clemson is difficult without consensus at quarterback, right? Just because Christopher Zina, simply put, has not played enough to be convicted around. And there is talent again at Clemson, but there is not as much talent as there was last year. The buzz right now at Clemson is true freshman Tate Reynolds is the guy for the future. They're talking about him like they talked early on about Taj Boyd and Deshaun Watson and, really, really high-end guys. Like he's that level of athlete. He's a baseball player. But I am not going to I'm not going to go there. So I'm going to go a little outside the box on number two. I know that SMU and Louisville are common picks. I'm going to say Georgia Tech. All right. I think Georgia Tech opens this season up on a Thursday night with a lot of eyeballs and Coach Prime across the sideline. And they are defiant in their identity right now. They are defiant in who they are in terms of we are investing on the lines. Brent Key to the point where he hires big guy staffers to show recruits. Like I believe the number was last year that 18 former O linemen, D linemen in their building. Like they are that convicted on it. And they bring in Alberto Mendoza, who is a very good quarterback prospect. He's Fernando's little brother. He's not particularly like Fernando in a lot of ways, but there is a sense he'll be able to go. And if you want a wise guy pick for ACC Player of the Year, go with Justice Haynes, the running back, who will be going behind a talented offensive line. To me, Justice Haynes at Michigan, Dan, I'm sure you remember, was a top 3 tailback in college football last year. He will be the identity. He will have the line. He will have inferior defenses to go against. He could simply put be the dominant tailback in the sport. So I'm going to take the Yellow Jackets, ground and pound, ball control. Look for them to steamroll Colorado in week 1, take that momentum and go from there and finish second in the ACC.
Pete kind of takes 2 teams off the board there. That's efficiency. That's what we know. Third down efficiency here. Ryan, who's finishing second?
Well,
you get a second choice too after.
Yeah, and my gut is Louisville, right?
Sure.
We need to really give Jeff Brom more credit. And I think we do, because all he does is win 9 games a year, and he is a master of the transfer portal. And I don't know that Louisville's all this flush with cash, but Brom every single year is adding 30 guys who are all really good. They convinced Isaac Brown to stay, which was a really, really big deal. In January, I think the foregone conclusion was, he said he was going to go in, with the do not tag deal or whatever, and he ended up not going anywhere, and he's staying, and that running back room is loaded. The problem Louisville has is Louisville's calendar, because Louisville starts the season with Ole Miss. Then they have SMU early. But to me, and this is a team that, to me, it's all about a quarterback and it's all about a coach who's thinking about legacy now. But I'm looking at it, October the 3rd, Louisville goes to Raleigh, to Carter Finley to play NC State. And if NC State wins that football game, I'm looking at the NC State schedule with CJ Bailey at quarterback, who I think is a name that a lot of people don't know and should know. And I can tell you the NFL people are certainly talking about him. And very quietly, NC State is quarterback university, and nobody realizes that. But now the Virginia game is being played stateside for week 0, and now there's a week 1 bye because they thought they were going to be recovering from an international trip. And then it's Richmond. Then they go to Vanderbilt. And Vanderbilt is not Vanderbilt of a year ago, and we're all going to have questions about them early. And then it's App State, and then it's Louisville, and then it's Wake, Stanford, Cal, Duke, Syracuse, Florida State, North Carolina. NC State could be sitting at 1 loss by the time we get to December, because if they win one that they can get away with, the Louisville game, or that Vanderbilt game, they could be sitting undefeated as they roll into the Belichick Bowl. And I don't think anyone sees that coming. But CJ Bailey is the truth at quarterback, and you talk to anybody with the National Football League, they'll tell you that.
So you taking Louisville or NC State?
I'm taking Louisville. No, I'm taking Louisville. You said I got an A and a B. I'm taking.
Yeah. Well,
I said the winner of that game on October
the
3rd,
winner.
The winner of that game on October the 3rd moves into the second position in my deal.
Okay, good, fair enough. I am interested in seeing Lincoln Keenholz, who transferred out of Ohio State. Ohio State collects every great quarterback has to commit there at least, I think, or something like. I think it's like part of the bylaws. I think it was in that Protect College Sports Act thing.
That passed, right? That's already passed, right?
It's going well. Few more dollars, little more donations, grease those skids. Maybe. No. Yeah, probably not.
Who's more unreliable, college sports leaders making rules or Congress making rules? You want to talk about a movable force and inanimate object, or whatever that cliche is? My gosh.
Literally the last conversation I had with Mike Leach the week before he passed, and one of the might be the last thing he said to me at the end of a 2-hour, soliloquy. But he said, "Oh yeah, McGee," he said, "Congress, they fix everything." And I just keep hearing that. I just keep hearing that in my ears.
I mean, you can't, if you got a ton of money and you show up at Congress and say, please help us, they're going to be like, we can milk this for 10 years. I mean, it's like calling up a Ponzi. Let's call a Nigerian prince.
Maybe Nevin Shapiro should just solve their problems, Dan.
Nevin Image and Likeness could have solved. Believe me, he's got like a 20-point plan. You don't even want to know the thoughts running. You ever seen that thing from what is it? Horrible Bosses, where one of the actors has got all the arrow. That's Nevin's solution to solve it. Who knows? Might work. I'm just saying. If everyone in Washington's like saw these guys coming. Oh, you guys got millions of dollars to lobby us? We'll take our time here. Have a few more meetings. A few more meetings. We'll see. All right. Anyway, I want to see it. Ohio State gets all these QBs, and then of course there's one position they all got to transfer, and like sometimes it's Joe Burrow, sometimes it's McCord, sometimes it's the guy that wasn't any good. Who knows? So not being as good as Julian Sayin does not mean couldn't be really, really good. Yeah. So that's going to be interesting.
He can scoot a little too, Dan. Which Jeff Brom really hasn't had lately. So it'll be interesting to see. I think Jeff Brom is the single best play caller in college sports. Period. End of story. And I just think with a little bit of a toy there and a little bit of, be able to keep defenses off balance, they will be able to move the ball.
The funny thing about him at Louisville, as I recall it, is his defenses have been better than his offenses.
Yes.
Even though, he's really known as the offensive coach. Like, he has not had these, like, epic offensive productions, but maybe that happens now. Anyway, if you guys are going to leave me SMU, I'm going to take it. 9-4 last year with under Rhett Lashley, year after going to the playoff. They did beat Miami. Look at Kevin Jennings, third-year starter. That's just an incredible advantage in college football. And he was really good a while ago. And third-year starter at the same school. 3,641 yards and 26 touchdowns last year. You just gotta they gotta get the skill players. Obviously, really worked in the portal to try to do that. So we'll see. But I think SMU has got. I think Lashley has built an excellent program that maybe. It's funny, they were left behind multiple times. I mean, even Sonny Dykes was like, I'm out of here. I'm going to go cross town, to take the TCU job over SMU. And they bought their way into the ACC, and they have proven that they at least belong in this conversation going forward. Certainly no lack of money at SMU and in Dallas, but that's I'm going to take. And I like their schedule. They got a Louisville game. They're at Virginia Tech, but I think it's doable. So if SMU ends up that second team and even a second team in the playoff, I would not be surprised. Who else you like?
What our buddy Dave Wilson say? Was it 2024? He had that quote, "Old blank, here come the billionaires." Yeah, and that's it.
Nobody mentioned Virginia, which had this great breakout season under Tony Elliott last year. Thoughts on the Cavs, Pete?
So they are like super veteran, and I just worry about them at quarterback. Bo Pribula has proven to be intermittently effective, but I don't think he's the guy that's going to lead you to the conference title. I just don't think he throws it well enough. And I feel like Chandler Morris was that quintessential 23-year-old dual threat who kept them punching above their weight. I give them credit. They have built, they have invested, they have pushed. But they'll be very good. That to me, week 0 is a much more intriguing game than TCU North Carolina. I really feel like that's a game. We're going to call the NC State path to undefeated the McGee Valley, like the McGee Forge. Is that what they used to call it in colonial times?
Yeah,
because if you look at NC State's schedule, it is a win there. It is all sitting in front of them. I am on the CJ Bailey bandwagon in a big way. I am not on the Bo Pribula bandwagon just from what we saw from him at Missouri was just okay. You know what I mean? It's hard to have conviction around him. Like He could get better. They've done, Tony Elliott obviously knows what he's doing with offenses. It has certainly produced plenty of high end offenses. But I'm not there on the Cavs sustaining it at that level. I think they'll be good again. But when week 1, things can change.
Sure can. All right. This is a 2-part ACC podcast because dang league expanded all over the place. Manifest destiny. We can't get to everybody. We're going to get to more. Who's going to stay who's coaching. We got some hot seats. We got some old seats. We got a lot of stuff. We got some sleepers. Who's going to be the best players. We'll get to some of the other teams. A lot going to go on in part 2, plus an epic People's Court is coming. So you definitely want to look for that later this week. But this is part 1 we're completing. So thanks for listening to College Game Day podcast. Please download the podcast wherever you prefer to get your podcasts. Better yet, subscribe so you never miss a single edition. We will talk to you later.
#GoACC.